Hello Wargamers, I'm here with a new video. This time I'm doing a video for beginners on 40k, where I want to do an overview of all the armies. I will explain a little bit how this army works and what are more or less the design. You also will see some pictures to have a better idea. I also recommend the people that is interested in one of this army that go to the Games Workshop website and look for different sites in internet to learn more about the army. I also want to say that I will not cover the new digital supplements, and I will focus mainly on the main codex delivered by Games Workshop. I will not cover Forge World neither. Let's start with the first army, Adeptas Sororitas, also known as Sisters of Battle. They are the armed part of the Ecclesiastica Imperialis, who are the faction inside of the Imperium that try to protect the faith against all the warp, chaotic, and heretics. So their main focus is to fight the heretics, the chaos cultists, and anything that have psychic powers and are not under control of the Imperium. This army is focusing the shooting in short range with a lot of melta weapons and flammers. So it's quite resilient because they have armor 3+, but on the other side they don't have the strength and the toughness that the Space Marines will have. It's also worth to mention that they have maybe one of the best vehicles in the game today, that is the Exorcist, a vehicle that it can give a very heavy support fire. But on the other side, they don't have anything to deal with the flyers or any type of flying vehicle or monstrous creature. So most of the times they need allies or use some fortress to cover this gap. Important to mention that the codex of this army has not been renewed in the last year, so it's one of the oldest codex today in the game. And the last review they did for 60th edition is not adding a lot of things to the codex. Also, the miniatures lineup is a little bit limited today, and they mainly have metal miniatures, so they don't have any plastic kit today. So I don't think it's advisable for a beginner to start with Sisters of Battle, but if you really like the aesthetics, just make a look. So summarizing, is an army dedicated to short range fighting. They have some units for close combat, but I don't think it's their biggest strength because they don't have the strength and the toughness to resist combats. And the miniatures lineup is not being updated recently. So let's go to the next army. Space Marines, maybe one of the most popular armies today in 40k. The codex have been reviewed for 6th edition, and they have special rules if you want to dedicate to one of the most famous chapters in the universe of 40k. Although there are other chapters that they have their own codex, and we will cover it later on. So Space Marine are the elite inside of the Imperium. So they are superhuman warriors with quite heavy armor. They have the best armor today in the game, 2+ and 3+, if you have the Assault Terminators, for example. They are very flexible, and you can build a lot of different types of armies around this codex. You can go from shooting army to a close combat army. One of the weakest points of the Space Marines is that any Space Marine can do everything, but at the same time they are not experts in any of the fields. For example, if you fight versus an army that is specialized in shooting, you are going to be in disadvantage. On the other side, also, the Space Marines are quite points expensive. So this is making the army smaller, and you will be outnumbered by most of the opponent armies. If you like to be the defender of the Imperium with an elite army, Space Marines can be your army. Blood Angels is a Space Marine army that have their own codex. It's a chapter that is more dedicated to close combat. It's quite fast as the basic troops are assault Space Marines. And also the vehicles are slightly faster than the vehicles from other chapters. But in any case, they are still Space Marines, so they are still very flexible. You can still build up quite different type of army, but if you're looking for close combat Space Marines, make a look on Blood Angels. They are quite good on that field. Dark Angels is another Space Marine chapter. They have the look like the Middle Age monks or warrior monks combined with the Space Marines. Another particular thing of the Dark Angels is that they have 3 different wings. So one is the Death Wing, that is a company that is only formed by Terminators. So you are able to deploy only Terminators with that army. The other wing is what is called the Raven Wing, and is mainly focused on bikes, attack bikes, and land speeders. So also being able to make an army very fast only with motorbikes, attack bikes, and land speeders. And the last is the standard companies composed by Marines with power armor. You can do very different build-ups combining the different wings, and today the most popular is to combine Death Wing with the Raven Wing. The drawback of that is that normally Terminators and bikes are more expensive than Marines, so you will be even more numbered than playing with basic Space Marines. So still being very flexible army, but most focused on Terminators and bikes. Space Wolf. Space Wolves are characterized for not following the Codex rules dictated by Robert Gilliman, so they have their own organization. They are quite brutal in close combat and they prefer short-range firepower, although they still have the Long Fangs who are specialized on long distances. As this codex has not been updated yet to the 6th edition, they are lacking a little bit on support on anti-fly fire. So to cover this gap, maybe it's a good idea to have some allies from other chapters or have flyers from other chapters, as at this moment they don't have any. The aesthetic is a combination of the Nordic barbarians with power armor. So if you like this type of wild aspect on a Space Marine, is an army that can give you a lot of possibilities, combining this totem wolf with the servo armor. Also, they have a very special unit that are the Thunderwolf Chivalry, that are Space Marines riding a huge wolf. With that, we covered the standard Space Marines and the most popular chapters. Daemons of Chaos. Coming from the war, they arrive ready to eat the souls of the enemies. It's an army mainly focused on close combat. Most of the units doesn't have shooting ability, although there are some other units that can use psychic powers, or they have some special abilities that allow them to shoot. The entire army have Deep Strike special rule, so this means that you can teleport into the battlefield half of your army. But you have to be careful when you do that, because you can be killed completely from the table and then you will lose the game. It's also important to say that they have a lot of monstrous creatures, flying and non-flying monstrous creatures. They can be very resistant and very hard, especially in close combat, but on the other side, normally the troops are not that resistant and are very vulnerable to saturating fire. So you have to be very careful how you play that faction, and you cannot run directly in close combat in front of your enemies. Maybe it's an army that is a little bit difficult to play for beginners, but even though can be very competitive, especially with with the build-ups that are using a lot of flying monstrous creatures that are quite difficult to kill today. If you are interested in painting and collecting, this army is also giving quite a lot of possibilities, because you can make a lot of transformation, as the demons can have mutations, and is opening a door to your imagination if you want to create your own transformations on the demons. Also, it's very colorful because you will have demons following the 4 gods of chaos, so you can go from the very nasty appearance of Nagel to the blue of Thench, or even the sensuality of Slaanesh, without forgetting the blood red of Khorne. Chaos Space Marines are the traitor marines that now are fighting against the Imperial on the side of the Chaos. They have been corrupted by the Dark Gods, and today most of them are coming from the Eye of Terror or the Maelstrom, or they are infiltrated inside of the Imperium. Also, is opening a lot of possibilities, as you can do Space Marines based on the first Foundation Legions, on the original Legions, or you can do Space Marines that are from the second Foundation or third Foundation that are no traitors, like can be the Red Corsairs in the Maelstrom. Today they have a very competitive flyer that is called the Helldrake, and the most competitive lists are making a lot of use or abuse of the Helldrake together with some cultists and flying monstrous creatures that are quite a hard build up in a competitive game. If you are not that focused on competitive games, remember you will have a lot of possibilities. It's an army that can work from a shooting to close combat, but I think the most strength is on short range shooting and on close combat. So very flexible army where you have a lot of different troops from shooting to close combat, but you have to be careful on not abusing on the abilities. So you can have a lot of different equipment on the different units, but if you use a lot of this, you are going to be short in numbers. So be clever when you build up a list. Use and put a purpose on the unit. Don't try to cover everything with each unit. And remember that you can dedicate your army to one of the Dark Gods, or you can dedicate the army to the fourth of them. Dark Eldar are coming from Komorak, a city hiding in the Beltway. They specialize in loot, capture, murder, and strike the Imperium from the back. They are very fast, but on the other side they are not very resilient. So you have to play with the movement, speed, and try to strike first to be able to win your enemies. It's an army, that is not very well in resisting the returning fire. So you have to be very careful, very selective how you move and where you shoot. The vehicles are also very fast, but they are like paper, very fragile, so any shooting can kill them. On the other side, if you combine well the firepower and you shoot first, they are able to erase from the table almost any unit. Another particular thing from the Dark Eldar is that they have poisoned weapons as a basic weapon, so they are able to wound any creature on the table on 4+. Doesn't matter what toughness this creature have. And this is very good when you are fighting monstrous creatures. So maybe Dark Eldar is suffering a lot when they fight high resilient armies like can be Space Marines or Necrons, but they're doing very well when they are fighting monstrous creatures, like if you fight demons, or you fight Tyranids. Eldar. This faction is mainly guided by the Farseers, and they have quite good psychic power. As their dark brothers, they are very fast and they are not very resilient, but at least they have better armor than the Dark Eldar, and they also have some monstrous creatures that can be quite resilient, as they have toughness 8. Also, one of the best vehicles today in 6th edition is the Eldar Serpent, that are very resilient to shooting, as they can transform with a 2+, a penetrating hit into a glycine. But as the Dark Eldar is mainly army that is focused on fast movement, striking first, and then try to be away when on the returning fire. Nice thing on the Eldar is that all the specialist units have a different color and a different flavor, and this is giving very nice opportunities on the collection side. So, and it's quite funny, and you will not get bored of painting Eldar, as you can go from very different palette colors in the same army. So today in 6th edition, Eldar maybe is one of the most competitive armies, and at the same time, from collection point of view, is quite a nice looking army that is giving quite a lot of possibilities. Grey Knights. They are the elite of the elite in such a way. So they are space marines, and at the same time they are a psychic brotherhood. So they are very good in short distances and in close combat. Most of their weapons only have 24 inches of range, so it's an army that have to be very close to the enemy to be effective. On the other side, as they are the elite of the elite, they are very expensive in points, because they are equipped with very good armor and very good weapon. So this makes them very short in numbers, and you have to be very careful how you manage the army in a battle, because if you lose a unit, maybe you are losing a big part of your army, while in other armies it's not that important. They are still quite competitive in 6th edition, although the codex is from the 5th edition and they haven't been updated yet. They also have a quite good anti-fly protection, because they have the Storm Ribbon that is quite a good flyer with a transport capacity. So if you play this army, you have to be aware that you have to be close to your enemy. So play in a way that you can move fast to be below 24 inches from your enemy. Imperial Guard is the hammer of the Imperium and the main army of the Imperium. They are composed for hundreds and hundreds of infantry and very heavy tanks. And in the game, this is translating very cheap units, and you can accumulate easily tens of Imperial Guardians, and you can combine them with heavy tanks and long-range artillery. Normally, their skills are quite low compared to other armies, but they compensate this with numbers. Also, they are not very resilient, as they don't have very good armor and toughness neither. So the way to play this army is, if you want to play a lot of infantry, just accumulate shooting to your enemy. If not, you can also use tanks to compensate the lack of resilience of your units. This army is mainly focused on shooting, as in close combat they don't have very good assets, and most of the units of close combat are not used today. So it's an army that wants to keep away from the enemy, shooting and shooting all the time. But you have to be careful, because if you remain stationary far from your enemy, you maybe forget the targets. So be aware that you have to go also for the objectives in the mission. Necrons. They are very resilient thanks to the higher armors they have and the reanimation protocols. And they are very good in shooting below 24 inches. I think all the weapons they have range 24 or below. So this army is demanding to be next to your enemy. On the other side, in close combat, they are not doing very well. They resist quite well, but they don't have any weapon that any good weapon in close combat, except when you have a Necron Lord or Overlord, and they have very low initiatives. So normally they receive a lot of casualties before they can hit the enemy. So Necrons are designed to play between 12 and 24 inches, where they are safe from the close combat and they can use their firepower. Another point is Necrons sometimes is lacking mobility, especially on the infantry units, so you have to compensate this by using transport vehicles or flyers that helping the units to be in the range of the shooting. Orks is very excellent an Orc army. You have very different build-ups from an Orc purely Orc army with a lot of infantry to mechanized infantry and also bikes combined with a lot of bikes. So this is up to you. Also giving a lot of possibilities in terms of transformation. So normally they are army where the equipment and weapons don't look very stylized and they just grab and put something together and make it work. And this randomness is transmitted in some of the units in the codex. So it's an army that have quite poor ability in shooting, but because they can shoot a lot of shots in one turn and the numbers are quite high, they will be able to saturate with fire any of your units, of any of the enemy units. Also in close combat they are very hard striking, as they can put a rain of hits onto your units. The problem they can have sometimes if you are using an Orc type of Orcs is that they will be quite slow and this will play against you. So you have to combine some units that can give some speed and some supporting fire to be able that the main core of your army is arriving into close combat. So Orcs is an army based on numbers. They have some randomness inside that sometimes they're playing against the Orcs or in favor of the Orcs, but they have not to be subestimated, as they can also put a rain of fire onto the enemies. Tau. Maybe today is one of the best armies in 6th edition 40k, as they are specialized in long range shooting. So they have weapons with quite long range and higher strength. They also have enough mobility to keep away from the enemies thanks to the jetpack ability of most of the main troops. The weak point normally is the close combat, but they have the ability to combine overwatch from other units to protect from the close combat assaults. In terms of aesthetics, they are quite similar to the anime or manga designs, with very straight lines and very clean designs. So if you like shooting and keep away from your enemies, and you like the Japanese design for this type of robots or armors, this is an army that you are looking for. Recently they also have been updated, so they have very nice recent models. Tyranids, coming from outside of the galaxy, they arrive to devour any biomass defining the way. The army is focused in the close combat, but they also have quite good shooting. They don't like anti-fly neither because they have some flying monstrous creatures that can hit the flyers. The army is also giving quite some opportunities, so you can go from collecting hundreds of small bags, or you can go for what is called Godzilla style, where you have a big collection of monstrous creatures. If you like claws, jaws, talons, and hit the enemy very close, Tyranids can be a good opportunity. But be patient, because the Codex of Tyranids is going to be renewed in the following weeks. So we have to see what are the news that will have this army. So Tyranids is an army that can combine a lot of disposable units with monstrous creatures that can strike very hard and can be very resilient. If you play well, you will overwhelm your enemy with wave of bags. And with the Tyranids, I finalized this overview. I hope this has been useful for you. And if you have any question on these armies or you want to have more information, please leave me a comment and I will happily help you if you want some more information. Please like if you like it, comment below and share it if you think someone can be useful for some other people. Thanks for watching and see you again later. Bye.